Hello YouTube, today I wanted to make a tutorial on how to program a simple Tic Tac Toe game using Visual Studio 2010 and Visual Basic. First thing we need to do is create a new project, make sure it's a Windows Form application using Visual Basic, and we're just going to call it Tic Tac Toe, and I'm going to name it YouTube. Just come over here and hit OK. We're going to change our form size here, make it just a little bit bigger. And one thing I like to do is change the default location to center screen. Then I'm going to come up here and I'm going to use labels. Labels are going to give me what I need, and it's also going to blend into the form a little bit better than buttons will. So what we're going to do is we need to change the auto size to false, and we're going to want to change the font to something that we can use a little bit better, something that will look a little bit better. Let me see here. Impact looks good. And then we're also going to want to change the size. I'm going to use 36. You can use whatever font you want, whatever size you want. You know, just something. Well, I don't think impact is going to work. It's a little bit thin for what I want to do. Let's try this one, and we'll make it bold. There we go. That looks a little bit better. Alright, so now we're going to want to create 8 more of these. And I've just copy and paste. That way I get all the same formatting, and I don't have to go back over here and change it every single time. Now I'm going to scroll down and I'm going to get my line shape. Double click on it and it goes up to the top of the form here. Then I'm going to use the arrow keys and just hit over. Get it positioned about where I want. And we're going to change the border width to 4. That way it gives us a nice thick border. And position the other one. We'll copy that, paste another one in there. Kind of position it so then it looks decent. Alright, that's good enough. Alright, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to double click on one of my labels. It doesn't matter which one, so I'm just going to choose this first one here. And if you notice that it says label1.click, that's the handle. So whenever we click on the label, this is going to fire. Now, what I want to do is I want to make it so then if I click on any labels, this is what's going to happen. So what we'll do is we'll put in a total of 9 of these. So right now I've got 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And I forgot to put my comma over here. And we need to go through and name label 1, label 2, label 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Alright, so what this is going to do is anytime any one of those labels are used, it is going to come into this method. Now, what we're going to want to do is we're going to need to create a couple variables here. In all, I believe we're going to need 3, but let's just start off with one. We're going to name it dim, and what we're going to want is something that is just going to keep track of X's and O's. So we can name it XO if we want to. And what we're going to say is sender dot text. Let me try this again. If sender dot text equals, and we're going to use 2 quotes, and then hit enter. What that's going to do is that's going to put in my then and my end if. So what we're saying is if whatever label sent this is blank, then we're going to do whatever it is. That way we don't want people to change X's to O's and O's to X's and all that mess. So next thing we're going to do is we're going to say if XO equals 0, then now up here we need to make XO equals 0. That way it'll go in there automatically. And we're going to say if XO equals 0, then what we want it to do is we want it to put an X inside the label. So we're going to say sender dot text equals capital X. Now what I'm doing is as I start typing in sender, as it pops up in the IntelliSense down here, that's the one I want. If you hit tab, it will actually put it in there for you. So that's how I'm getting that in there. So we're saying if sender.text equals X, or sorry, if XO equals 0, then we're going to make the sender.text equal X. The same way we want to do that, we're going to say else, and then I'm going to paste in what I just copied. I copied the if XO equals 0, then sender.text equals X. That way I can just change the 0 to 1, the X to an O. Then up here I'm going to say make XO equal 1. Then down here I want XO to equal 0. So what that's going to do is that's going to allow me to swap back and forth without a whole lot of extra coding. So, forgot to do one thing here. I'm going to select all of these. So what I've got is I've got one selected right now, and I'm just holding down Control and clicking on the others. Then we want to remove the X's out of there, so then it's just a bunch of blank spaces. Now, if I click, it's automatically just going to swap back and forth between X and O. That is a big part of our programming done right there, because we've got it swapping back and forth between X's and O's. The next step is we want to make it so then if it sees X's and or O's in a line, it puts up a message box that says that whoever it is the winner. So we need to create another method. We're going to go outside of this method, maybe here, and we're going to say public sub, and then we can name it whatever we want. So we're going to call it game checker is what we're going to end up calling it. So let's do public sub. Sorry about that, I hit the wrong button. Game checker. Now make sure that you name it one word. My rule of thumb is if you're using 2 separate words, just each word capitalize the first letter. So we've got game checker, and we're going to want to call game checker right here. So what will happen is once it puts an X or an O in there, it will come down here and then go into game checker. Now, if label 1 dot text equals, here's where our next variable is going to come in. We need something that is going to hold some character that we want it to hold. So we're going to do dim, and I'm just going to call it holder. So what we're going to say is dim holder, and then come down here and say if label 1 equals holder and label 2 equals holder and label 3 equals holder, then I forgot the dot text. Let's go back up here, put the dot text on there. Helps if I put it on the right one. Alright, so we got label 1 equals holder, label 2 equals holder, and label 3 equals holder. Whoa, what is holder? We're going to come up here and we're going to say appear holder equals X, and we want that to be in quotes. Let's try this one more time. Alright, then down here we want holder to equal 0. Or, oh, not 0. So what will happen is, if it comes in here, and if it's supposed to be an X, holder will equal X. If it's supposed to be an O, holder will equal O. So down here it's going to check and see if holder equals, if label 1, 2, and 3 equal holder. And we'll say if it does, then message box dot show equals, not equals, I apologize, it's not supposed to be equals, and then whatever message we want. So what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to say holder plus, and then we want to put space in here at first, and then we say wins. So to show you what this is going to do, if we do this, it says X wins. If we run it again and we reverse it, it says O wins. Since we've just programmed these three, the 3, 1, 2, and 3 labels, these ones here aren't going to show up, even though it is 3 in a row. So what we need to do is we need to program the rest of them in there that exact same way. So what we'll do is we'll come here and we'll just paste in a bunch of these. And we'll call this one, sorry, not 2. We want to call it 4, 5, and 6. Then we want to do 7, 8, and 9. And that covers our across. Now we want to do the downs. So we've got 1, 4, and 7. We've got 2, 5, and 8. And then we've got 3, 6, and 9. And that covers our up and down and our across. Now the only 3 that we have left are the 2 diagonals, and then what happens if no one wins. So what we've got to do is we've got to say here we've got 1, 5, and 9. So we've got 1 there, we've got 5 there, and 9 there. Then we're going to have 3, 5, and 7. Now our final variable that we're going to need is the variable that, rather than saying if label 1, label 2, label 3, label 4, all the way to label 9 has something in it, then it's a tie game. We're gonna count. So we need something that's going to be a counter. So I'm just going to say dim counter, and we're going to declare that and make it equal 0. And then we're going to say right here, if counter equals 9, then we're going to call it tie game. Get rid of this. Now, when you come back up here, and when you say counter plus equal 1, all that is saying is counter equals counter plus 1. It's just a shorthand way of saying it. So now what we've got, let's do one more thing before we do this, that way we don't have to keep starting and stopping the video, or the program here. Come up here to where the buttons are. You can do it in common controls, or there's all Windows forms underneath there. It's button, usually in alphabetical order. I believe there's a way where you can change it, but it's just easier to do in alphabetical order. Change the button text to clear. Then we'll double click on this, and it will automatically create that method for us. And then all we've got to do is say label 1 dot text equals nothing. We're going to do that to all of our labels. And I wasn't counting, so I'll probably get this wrong. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Actually, I did just right. Then we're going to need 2 more. And the 2 more that we're going to need is our XO and our counter. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to copy them from up there. Take off the dims because that is declaring it. Well, since we've already declared it, we don't need to declare it again. We're just wanting to make them equal nothing. Now, what will end up happening is when we click here, no matter where we go, it says O wins. I say OK. I can hit clear, and it clears it out. It also works across O wins. So we did up and down, we did across, now let's do diagonal. And just show you it works, X wins. Alright, now, to make it even simpler, to where at the end of the game we don't have to click clear, it will automatically click clear, what we can do is, let's create one more method here real quick, because I'm looking ahead, and I know we're going to need this new method anyway. We're going to say public sub, and then we can again name it whatever we want. And what this is going to check is it's going to check to see if the game is over, and if it is, then it's going to hit this clear button. It's going to say who wins. It's going to do the whole 9 yards. So what we're going to do is we're going to say game over, and then we're going to take this message box dot show, and we're just going to move it down here. And then instead of these here, we're going to call it game over. So what that will do is that will call game over if any of these are true. Alright. So now game over is going to be called. It's going to come down here. It'll say who wins. Since we declared holder up here, it's what they call a global variable. it works for the entire program. If we were to declare it in here, it would only work for this one method, and then once it ended the method, it would be done. So that's why I made it all global the way I did. What we're going to want to do next is, since we've got it so then now well, what we're going to do is we're going to say button1 dot perform click. That's going to, once it discovers, let's say label 3, label 5, and label 7 are all equal to the same thing, it's going to call game over. When game over gets called, it's going to show up and say whichever player wins. So let's say player X wins. Then it's going to, when you hit OK, what it will do is it will go to button1.perform click. Well, button 1, once it gets clicked, is going to clear everything out. So if we do this, oops, that it says X wins, I say OK, it automatically clears out the screen. Now, the final thing that we need to do is keep score. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a couple more labels here. We got label 10, and let's change this. I'm just going to change the font size here. So we got label 10. I'm going to copy and paste another one in. Label 11. And we got label 12 and a label 13. Now label 12 and label 13, we are going to want to change the property of the auto size to false. That way we can put zeros in here for the text. And the other thing that we're going to want to do is make the alignment in the center. So now we can actually select both of them and change the size at the same time. So now they're the same size, and then we can move it over and center it with the text above it here. Now here we're going to want to say player O and player X. So now we have player X and player O. What we'll do is we'll come back down here, grab a couple more line shapes, get it straight up and down, separate these two out, center that. Alright, so now what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to keep score. So if player X wins, we're going to want to do the scoring one way. If player O wins, we're going to want to do the score over here. So we've got label 13 and label 12. Now we're going to come in here and we're going to say we can do it either above our message box show or below. We definitely want to do it before we do this perform click. So let's come in here and we're going to say if holder equals X, then we're going to want to say label, I believe it was label 12, label 12.text equals label 12.text plus 1. Now that's not going to work, because what we need to do is in front of this label here, we need to put val, which stands for value. It makes it so then it understands it as a number instead of as a word. So now we've got X done. We can copy this, come back down here, type in if, and paste. Oh, sorry, not if. Type in else, and then paste. And what that will do is that will put everything in there. We just need to change the X to O, change the label to 13, and label here to 13. Now, that should keep score for us. O wins, now O has a point. If X wins, now X has a point. So that is now keeping score for us. We actually have a clear button so it can clear out. We've got a very simple tic-tac-toe game, and it didn't take us too long to program it. Got any questions, go ahead and ask them. I will do my best to answer. Also, comment, rate, subscribe. I'd really appreciate it. Thanks for watching.